You probably already know the history of Facebook, where Mark Zuckerberg in Harvard University gets to know two brothers that want to build a website, named Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss. These two brothers had an idea to create a website that was basically a social network, and they realized that Mark Zuckerberg is good at programming, so they decided to hire him to help him with the project. But as you know, Mark Zuckerberg goes on his own and basically creates his own website, and later on, it becomes Facebook, one of the biggest websites in the world. But the story is not that simple. The brothers had realized that their idea had been stolen by Zuckerberg, and they decided to sue him. If you want to know the complete story, there is a movie made about the entire story called The Social Network, which was made in the year 2010, and it's actually a pretty good movie. But long story short, the court decides to grant the brothers $65 million that Facebook has to pay. After getting this amount, the brothers did not want this in cash. They wanted to receive the amount in Facebook stock. Of course, the lawyers weren't a fan of this because their commission was going to get lower, so they bugged them to get the $65 million, but they weren't budging because they knew Facebook was going to be way bigger than it is today. And they were right, because when Facebook went public, the brothers' shares was worth about $500 million, damn near 10 times the money they received. When this much money was granted to the brothers, of course the news and the social medias around it had a ball day with them. They would say these guys are leeches and they leeched off Zuckerberg to get a whole lot of money. Even Mark Zuckerberg himself said that it is not right what these brothers did to me, because they weren't the first person that had the idea of the social network. And even in the movie The Social Network, they showed these brothers dumb rich kids that didn't truly know what they're doing. But in reality, it's much different, because these brothers were smarter than how they were being shown. So when they got the $500 million, what do you think they did with it? Did they buy a super yacht? Or maybe they bought a couple Bugatti Chirons. Or maybe they bought a beach house. No, their mind was in a different place, and they wanted to multiply this money once again. To invest their money, they first went to Silicon Valley to invest their money in startup companies because they believe the tech world is the future. But very weird things started to happen. They tried to invest in different companies, but every single time they were being rejected. After this happening many times, they decided to ask the person, "Why don't you want our money? We're paying a whole lot of money for a low percentage of your company." Every single time they had the same answer: Mark Zuckerberg. They realized that they don't want to be on the bad side of Mark Zuckerberg and have their biggest investors someone that Zuckerberg hates. In a way, Mark Zuckerberg was one of the most powerful men in Silicon Valley at that time, and you didn't want to be on his bad side. The brothers realized what had happened, and they were very upset because they realized that no one in Silicon Valley wants their money. So they decided to go to Ibiza, an island off the shore of Spain, to take the edge off. But still, they couldn't stop thinking about how to invest their cash, so they weren't really having fun. Until in one nightclub, they met a young man named David Ozar. You have to know, at this time, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is very new and a whole lot of people don't even know it exists. And the Winklevoss brothers were one of those people that didn't know what it is. So David started explaining it to him. Bitcoin had started in the year 2009, and when these guys are speaking in Ibiza, it is 2012, so it's been only 3 years. David Ozar does a great sales pitch. He basically says it's digital money. It is not affiliated with any banks or governments. It's limited to 21 million of them, so it's basically like gold. But David Ozar wasn't doing this just for fun. He had his own goals because he had a website called BitInstant, and in a way it was a platform where you could purchase Bitcoin. And since he knew the Winklevoss brothers had a lot of money, he was looking for them to invest. After the sales pitch, the brothers were interested, but not enough. They told David they will think about it and get back to him, so they exchanged numbers. In their own head, the brothers were very much interested, and they started thinking about it non-stop. They first realized that Bitcoin is only used for illegal activities, especially the dark web or money laundering. But either way, they continued their research to figure out everything about this crypto. The brothers realized whoever has Bitcoin at this time is very loyal to it, and they truly believe it is the best currency. And one of the main reasons is because the freedom you have with it. Then they slowly were very interested in investing. They didn't really want to put their whole money. They first contacted David Ozar to invest in his company BitInstant. They put $1.5 million into it and then told him to buy $100,000 worth of Bitcoin for them. $100,000 wasn't a lot of money to them, so they didn't mind it as much. But next week, they said put another $100,000 into Bitcoin, then another $100,000, then another. It didn't take long before the brothers owned 200,000 Bitcoins, basically 1% of all the Bitcoin there ever will be. And if you really want to get technical, they bought most of these Bitcoins under $10. Just imagine this guy meeting two random blokes in an island in the Mediterranean and end up selling them 200,000 Bitcoins in under a few months. Zuckerberg didn't want these guys to invest in Silicon Valley, but these guys went to the other side of the world and realized that there are other places that they could invest their whole money and be even more successful. Time passes and you get to the year 2013 when Cyprus is in the trenches in terms of economy. It literally has no money, so it decides to ask the European Union for a loan. The EU did not want to give them a loan unless they had a down payment. But Cyprus didn't have any cash, so they decided to do something that's unbelievable. They started taking money out of their citizens' bank accounts. If someone had $1,000, the next morning they would probably have $500 left, and they didn't know where it went. But slowly, when everybody realized that their money is missing, they realized that it was actually the government that stole their money. And this blew up all around the world, and it exactly caused people to lose trust in banks, especially in Europe and the United States. And when you lose trust in banks, their mind went to digital currency, especially Bitcoin. And this caused Bitcoin to start rising rapidly, and it was unbelievable for most people. For the first time, Bitcoin hits $100, then $200, then $500, and all of a sudden, you're seeing $1,000 for each Bitcoin. And this is when the talks of Bitcoin got serious, because beforehand it was a laughing stock, or it was only used for money laundering and illegal activities. It was around this time where the Winklevoss brothers wanted to regulate Bitcoin because they believe that it operates like the Wild West. The OG subscribers to Bitcoin that purchased it way before them got very angry because they got interested in Bitcoin because there was no government or regulation behind it. They enjoyed the freedom. They basically refer to these two as suits, and they don't know what they're talking about. They just sit on their penthouse and start talking. There's a CEO of BitInstant at this time called Charlie Shrem, and he has been running the company very well. And since Bitcoin is going up, of course the website is doing very well. But unfortunately, Charlie Shrem didn't really realize how to use his money because he couldn't control himself. Every single weekend he would go to casinos, parties, use all types of drugs and prostitution. And this would piss off the Winklevoss brothers because they said you're a CEO of a proper company and you can't be doing this every single weekend. But Charlie Shrem would say you guys are overreacting, I'm just celebrating a little bit. The brothers were only focused on growing their brand and company, so there was a lot of tension between these three. If you've seen the King of the Dark Web video we made, you're familiar with the website Silk Road, which is also known as the Amazon of the Dark Web. And the only currency that's used on this website is Bitcoin. But it didn't take long for the website Silk Road to get taken down and the owner arrested. Of course, this caused the price of Bitcoin to go down because it was the main stage it was used at. And the brothers would see their valuable asset go down day by day, but they wouldn't be angry at all. They had a whole lot of money sitting in the bank. They were actually happy this is happening because this was the perfect time to buy even more Bitcoin. And also they were happy that Silk Road had closed down because finally Bitcoin wasn't affiliated with a dark web illegal activity type of currency. It could be used for something proper now. But after the website closed down, Charlie Shrem got caught by 3 agencies: FBI, IRS, and DEA. And it was all related to the Silk Road website because they had realized that Charlie Shrem had made some under the table deals with the owner of Silk Road, and all the Bitcoin that was used on that website came from BitInstant. And because of this, he was looking at 25 years in prison, and it was mainly due to conspiracy. His lawyers told him to show that he is guilty, and $1 million worth of Bitcoin was sold to them to use on their website. And because of this, they would get a lighter sentence. And he did, because it was only 2 years instead of 25 years. But after getting out of prison after 2 years in the year 2016, he couldn't even take a deep breath before he was hit with a lawsuit by the 2 brothers. And they stated that Charlie Shrem owes them 5,000 Bitcoins. And at that time it was worth $32 million. Of course, at this time Mt. Gox had been taken down because hackers had hacked the website and taken 800,000 Bitcoin. And BitInstant wasn't too well because their CEO was in prison for 2 years. And this is exactly when the brothers realized that they have to create their own website that sells Bitcoins, a website called Gemini. After Gemini was open, a lot of other websites came to compete. Websites like Binance, Coinbase, and FTX. But the brothers were not upset whatsoever. They liked the competition because this would cause the Bitcoin prices to go up. But let's learn a little bit about Bitcoin. Nobody truly knows who invented it. Some people say a man named Satoshi Nakamoto created it, and he has 1 million Bitcoins in his wallet, which makes him the richest man in the world. But we are not even sure if he exists or not. But alongside all these Bitcoin holders, of course the Winklevoss brothers have the most at around 70,000, but that was announced about 7 years ago, so it could be much more. Then you have Tether that has 67,000 Bitcoin. Tim Draper, an American investor, has 30,000 Bitcoin. Michael Saylor has 17,700 Bitcoin. Tesla Elon Musk company has 9,700, and Jack Dorsey has 8,038. Another cool thing is that El Salvador, their entire fortune and currency has switched to Bitcoin. So the currency used in this country because of Nayib Bukele is Bitcoin, and he did it in the year 2021. So right now he's living on top of the mountains because Bitcoin just recently hit an all-time high. And alongside all these people, about 10,500,000 Bitcoins are in people's hands all over the world.